Everybody, welcome back to the Jedi in Exile. Now, tonight's episode, we've already done a few of these. We are reviewing the main saga films of the Star Wars franchise series. Tonight's one is episode 3, it's Revenge of the Sith. Now, we've done one for Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, so remember you can go back and watch those videos. If you do like this content, then please do like and subscribe. It really, really helps us out. We appreciate all the support so far. So, Matthew, give me a little bit of an overview of your thoughts of Revenge of the Sith. Go for it.
So it's no secret that I really enjoy the prequel movies. I've made that pretty clear on this channel. Revenge of the Sith for me was pretty much the perfect kind of climax of the previous two movies, and this is the best movie in the prequel trilogy. I'm not going to go as far as saying that it's necessarily the best movie overall. We've done our video on that, and I think we probably are going to have to go back and readdress that at some point, re-release another video. But I loved this movie. I think it had such a good balance of storytelling, action, kind of character development that we hadn't necessarily, kind of the payoffs of character development, should I say, from the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I just thought that this was such a good lead into A New Hope without being a direct lead into A New Hope. I think this left enough kind of question marks to allow people to flesh the franchise out with other things, books, games, like comics and things like that, but still was like, it still really in such a satisfying way, it kind of told that story of Anakin's full turn and how he became Vader, and that's ultimately what this movie needed to be about to make the series make sense.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, it tied up loose ends, didn't it? Clearly that we all thought this was the last film in the saga, which of course it was for, around 10 years. Um, and yeah, we knew what the outcome was going to be, and that's really strange to know basically what's going to happen in the film and still be like completely blown away. So obviously so much happens in this film. So it's set 3 years after Attack of the Clones. We, I mean, the first scene is just unbelievable, and even now it's still spoken about. And and you can see, for those watching on YouTube, you can see we've got a screenshot. The space battle above Coruscant. It's pretty an unbelievable probably 2 minutes before we even see anybody on the screen. And again, that sets the tone of the film for me. Those first sort of 5 minutes, you've got the huge space battle, so you've got all the special effects and everything that happens in this film. You've got the action. You've also got that really nice dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Their whole, and again, it makes it even sadder come the end of the film. But their dynamic of like, have you noticed the shields are still up? And Anakin's like, oh, sorry, Master. Like, this is where the fun begins. And like, it really unleashes their character, and of course they're a different relationship now to what they were in Attack of the Clones.
So,
They are kind of equals now.
so that's
Um,
that's kind of what I wanted to touch on is you get this very you get this massively
yeah,
changed
sexy Anakin.
dynamic, right? Because
Yeah,
in
he's no longer whiny Anakin.
in Attack of the Clones he was whiny. We talked about that in our review, but
Yeah,
also the line was still very much there of master and apprentice, and the age differential between them was very apparent, and all of that kind of stuff. And in in episode 3 you get this very much kind of brothers, best friends, kind of take the mickey, bounce off each other much more
and
than.
Anakin's become so powerful, hasn't he? That's the difference. I think Anakin's a powerful Jedi in his own right now, whereas in Episode 2 it was like he's got the potential to be great, but Anakin's like a celebrity. His name is across the HoloNet for all his heroics. During the Clone Wars, he is known across the galaxy, and so because of that, he commands far, just much more respect. and respect amongst most of the Jedi Order.
Yeah,
Most.
yeah, and I think that's key, right? Is that he's still not trusted. The thing that I really liked about this, and we touched on it in the other reviews, is um, the kind of the breadcrumbs have been left with this whole kind of special relationship between him and Palpatine,
Yeah.
and ultimately that's why the Jedi Council don't trust him, and that's why he's not granted the rank of Master, which becomes such a pivotal
Yeah, and I
kind of part of the story.
definitely, and I feel like before this film was released, we knew, obviously knew he was going to turn to the dark side. We knew about the twins. You know, that we knew the Jedi were going to be killed. We knew all of that. What we didn't necessarily know is why Anakin, the reason to make him turn, and obviously there are different variables that go into that, but the main one is that he has, the vision that Padme is going to die in childbirth, and he is like, I can't let this happen. He's so scared and desperate that facilitates his fall to the dark side. But I just think the way it happens with the whole Windu fight, um, Windu beats Palpatine. Um, I think that's pretty huge. It explains how Palpatine gets his weird wrinkly face, um, with the electric shooting back, and obviously Anakin is, he cuts Windu's hand off. He doesn't, directly kill Windu, but he's then like, "What have I done?" And he's still in that kind of stage of like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've just done that." And then Palpatine is like, "Good," and it's all about Padme. It's all about saving Padme from dying. And I think that was just a big question mark for me. That I was like, how the hell are they gonna like have him turn? What's the reason?
In one
And
movie as
clearly,
well.
yeah, exactly. There's a lot to see because Mace Windu's hand gets cut off. I mean, it's about a 2.5 hour long film. His hand gets cut off after like an hour and a half, hour 20. There's quite a lot of the film still to go when Anakin turns to the dark side, and of course, the follow on from that is then Order 66, which are some of the most heartbreaking scenes I think that we've seen in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Um,
I think for me, one of the reasons that this kind of. I remember going to see this movie opening night with my dad, who is also a massive Star Wars fan.
the
Um,
Don.
yeah, you know it. And it, it was such an emotional movie. And
Yeah.
we've talked about this before, and I think the video where Dave Filoni talks about the fated arc, and all of that kind of stuff, he sums it up, and he says that Star Wars is about making an audience feel something at its core.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah.
fundamental kind of aim of Star Wars, and this was such an emotional movie in that we see all these Jedi kind of on the turn of a coin, essentially eradicated. You see the kind of emotional, quite visceral emotional response that Yoda feels within the Force of all of these
Mm.
people happening, but to see Anakin, who essentially you've seen from a young, innocent, naive child, turn into this absolute kind of monster to the point
Yeah.
of you've said that the reason that he turns is Padme, and ultimately he kind of leads, he ends up force choking her, the woman that he
Yeah.
loves. He force chokes because in his head
Because
he's
he feels
become so
betrayed.
deluded that he thinks
Yeah.
that she's betrayed him. So you
And
see.
that's so huge to just touch on, is that Anakin throughout all of this feels like he's in the right, and that continues into, and we spoke about it before, that this continues on to Vader. Yeah, so when he becomes Vader, he's still in that mindset of that the Jedi were against democracy, were against the Republic, they needed to be gotten rid of. He still feels on the right side of history, if you like. Um, and I think what cuts more, so this is a very emotional film, and you always consider the Anakin Obi-Wan exchange of "you were my brother, Anakin, I loved you," the most emotional moment. I think Revenge of the Sith has got better with age because of the Clone Wars series. So I think that actually the Order 66 scenes are more emotional because throughout the Clone Wars we've got to know some of the clones. We've got to see their relationship with their Jedi generals. We've also obviously got to know the Jedi a bit more. Now, I know that these aren't killed during Order 66, but we get to know Kit Fisto, who obviously is killed within like fucking 2 strokes by Palpatine slash Sidious. But we see like Plo Koon. We see a lot more of him in the Clone Wars and how he's like, the clones are talking about how they're expendable, and he's like, "You're not expendable to me," and that real empathy, and then to see him just blown out of the sky by his clone commander, and the Ki-Adi-Mundi one is the one that gets me when he's like
When he's like, "Come
charging
on,"
against the
and he's
Separatists.
like,
Yeah,
"Come
come
on,"
on!
and they all
And then he
just
turns around and they're like
they just
locked and
mow him
loaded.
down. They mow him down.
Yeah, and the Ayla Secura one as well. It makes it sadder after seeing the Clone Wars, and also the Battlefront 2, the old Battlefront 2, the story mode of the 501st on that, just some of the tales they tell. And I feel like Revenge of the Sith, obviously it's only a 2.5 hour movie, couldn't show everything. It would have actually been nice to have seen the Jedi Temple scene. The most badass scene for me in the film is Anakin walking up the steps to the temple of the 501st. It would have been interesting to see, a 10-minute segment of him and the clones going into the temple. We just kind of see a bird's eye view, before he walks into the room with the younglings. We see a kind of bird's eye view of the temple of clones and Jedi sort of everywhere shooting each other, etc. Um, so that's the only criticism I probably have, and it's a kind of criticism where, oh, that would have been nice, but I understand why it wasn't in there because of the length of time running.
Yeah, and pacing is a massive thing when it comes to movie releases, right? And one of the reasons that I criticise some of the sequel trilogies movies
We
quite so
criticise
much.
the sequels.
Yeah, I know, shocker. Um, quite so much is pacing. It's not necessarily to do with story or it being a bad
Mm.
movie, but it's pacing. And I feel like I agree with you. As a diehard Star Wars fan and somebody that loves this movie so much, yes, I would have quite liked to have seen that a little bit more. But I totally understand why, when they do movies, the first cut of a movie is normally like 3-4 hours, and they have to
Mm.
kind of go through and go, how are we going to make
What's
this?
going to make it flow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like this scene is ridiculous because at this point he's Vader.
Yeah. This is the start of the Vader. I know it isn't the scene with him having the yellow eyes, like when he goes to kill the Separatist leaders,
But he's
but
Vader.
this is where when Vader talks about I killed Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker was weak. This is what he means. This is now like this is definitely Vader, and I think just want to shout out the music as well. John Williams. I mean, we obviously love John Williams. He's the greatest composer of all time for the film. Credits that he's got, but the music of Anakin walking up with the clones here, and it's intermixed because you see them walking up to the temple, then you see like Obi-Wan get shot down. You see Yoda. There's an attempted assassination on him, and you see Yoda. Obviously, like you said, he has this emotional moment. He drops his stick. He feels in the Force all these Jedi die. The music, how it goes from like heavy, like yeah, we're killing the Jedi to oh my god, all the Jedi being killed, like within seconds of each other. I think the whole score of this is great, and I think something on this movie, different to other Star Wars films, we get 4 proper lightsaber battles. So we get towards the start, we've got the Dooku against Anakin and Obi-Wan. The this time we'll take him together. Like again, the jokes. Then you have Mace Windu Palpatine, which I think actually skill wise is probably the best fight of them all. And then clearly at the same time we have the Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda against Palpatine in the Senate, which is just incredible. I mean, the effects of it are fantastic when Palpatine's launching the Senate pods at Yoda. And again, you know what's going to happen. You know that Yoda doesn't kill Palpatine. You know that Palpatine doesn't kill Yoda. But to see that and to see how it culminates with like Yoda kind of losing the fight,
Oh,
because he loses his
he
lightsaber.
100% loses that fight.
Yeah, it loses the fight and then is just like, right, well, I've got to go into hiding. simple as that. And it does make you wonder. The only thing I think with the plot, why didn't Obi-Wan and Yoda just go take on the Emperor together and then go take on Anakin, or vice versa?
I mean,
Like, it just seems strange, but
stop criticizing.
yeah.
You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, yeah, we're not allowed to criticize Revenge of the Sith. I will go on record. This is my favorite Star Wars film. This is my favorite of everything, and I think probably some of that is nostalgia because of the age I was when it came out. I was like 11, so like a prime Star Wars age. But I do think it's got everything you want in a Star Wars film. Like we said at the start, it's got the action, it's got the romance, it's got the happy times, it's got the sad times, it's got everything.
I just, it's one of those really kind of, it's iconic, the scene on Mustafar, even to the point of the dialogue shouldn't be what people remember because the fight scene should be what people remember. But there are people that can quote the dialogue between Anakin and Obi-Wan like word for word because that scene is so impactful and it sticks with people. Like you said, it's such an insight into kind of the ultimate shift in Anakin from the what have I done, there's consequences here, all of that kind of stuff, to actually like the Republic is wrong, I'm right,
Yeah.
Palpatine's right.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of that sort of stuff. It's just such a watching that as a 12-year-old kid. That didn't sink in. Watching it 10 years later as an adult and understanding kind of what those words actually mean and that massive character dynamic shift is huge for me.
Yeah, and I think the one thing about Anakin and Obi-Wan that makes it how they know each other so well, and their battle at the end obviously is probably the best just because of the whole storyline of it. But it's the bit where they like swing their lightsabers and then they both use their force hand, and it's like they've both got basically the same fighting style. They know each other's moves inside and out, like, and they have to fight each other. It's like the ultimate battle, isn't it? And obviously the whole line at the end, where you were my brother Anakin, I loved you, and Anakin's like basically burning, and we realise Mustafa's the perfect planet for the battle, because with Anakin having to become Vader to survive, I just think it's just amazing, and Obi-Wan picking up the lightsaber that we know he then gives to Luke in A New Hope. We'll skip over the whole Padme dying because she felt depressed.
Because she was sad.
That could have maybe been played a bit better. Maybe she could have had like some disease or something like.
But do you know what? So I'm kind of gonna go on record here and not defend that. But at first watch, I didn't even really pick up on that. I just assumed that it was to do with the fact that he had been like choking her out, and then she was weak from that, and then gave birth. So it was like
the whole trauma of it all.
That was kind of where I went. So I actually don't think they needed to explain that. I think they could have literally just had it as she died in childbirth, and that was it, rather than like dying of a broken heart. And this is what I was saying to you about. Do you say a movie's bad because you can go in and nitpick these little things, or do you look at a movie on a whole and go, did it make me feel the way that the director and the studio and everybody and the writer wanted me to feel? Yes. Did I get emotional? Did I go on a journey with those characters? Yes.
God, incredibly so.
Did I love every second of the action sequences, not just the lightsaber battles, but the space battles and like the Grievous chase scene and all of that kind of stuff?
I forgot the Obi-Wan Grievous, like 5 main lightsaber battles.
Like, yes, 100%. I loved every second of those. So, did I sit there at any point and get bored through any of the stuff where there's the slower breaks and there's the dialogue and the more kind of lengthy wordy scenes? No, I didn't. So therefore, for me, it is I'm going to use the term perfect. but a perfect movie, because it's taken me, the audience, and taken me on the journey, and at no point have I gone, oh, do you know what, I'll just get my phone out and flick through Facebook for 5 minutes whilst they're having a chat. Like, I want to watch the movie, and I want to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, and I think it's realistic to me as to all of Anakin's, like, it's not just a case of I'm going to turn to the dark side to save Padme. He's already got those kind of niggles of like, well, the Jedi aren't telling me things. I've not been made a master on the Council. I'm not quite trusted.
Well,
He
this
doesn't feel the same connection to the Jedi as like an Obi-Wan does, who's been there, his whole life.
and the seed was planted in Attack of the Clones that he had the love for his mother and the family connection that he had with his mother, that he, I'm not going to say he turned at that point, but obviously, he was on the path.
Had tendencies.
Yeah, he was on the path, and he kind of he acted out of anger, which is the path to the dark side. And again, it's the whole, like, Padme in trouble, in danger, he will do anything to save her. The one thing that I do want to point out here, by the way, and I know that we were chatting about some stuff before we came on and filmed, about how kind of naive Anakin is a little bit in this movie. But, like, he goes and has conversations with Palpatine, and Palpatine's like, it's how you can save Padme. I know you've been having dreams about her. And it's like, well, how would he know if he wasn't the one making those dreams happen? Like, something in your brain's got to go, I've never told you that before. How do you know that? And he doesn't. He just goes, how can I save her? And maybe that is... we know
that he's a confidant of Anakin, don't we? Because of the whole Palpatine says about, isn't it like what you told me about your mother and the Sand People?
Yeah,
So
but...
we know that Palpatine's a huge confidant of Anakin, because that's something Anakin wouldn't say to anybody.
No, and maybe I'm getting nitpicky, and, well, I am getting nitpicky, but maybe it was a conscious decision, and maybe that was the whole, like, oh, Anakin's so blinkered by saving her that he's not seeing sense and he's not thinking logically.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting thing to call out, is just, the whole kind of... that if it actually slowed down to think about it, I said to you just before we came on that when Mace Windu wants to kill Palpatine and Anakin's like, no, his initial reasoning is, it's not the Jedi way. Yeah. And then very quickly jumps to, I need him. And I was like, in my head, I was like, at what point how does he think this is going to play out? That they're going to arrest him, and then he's going to go, well, actually, Mace, well, on, like, in the lines of us being honest with each other about some of the things that have gone on, I've secretly married somebody and I'm having a relationship with them, and she's going to die, so I need him to tell me how to save her. And by the way, I'm probably going to have to flirt with the dark side to make that happen, but as long as you're okay with that, I just thought I'd be honest with you.
Just want to fill you in, keep you in the loop while I go off for a year and train and do all of this.
So
yeah, listen, the big thing for me, I love the film, and I think it's been made even better by the Clone Wars, because you see a lot more of Anakin's development. I could understand there was a lot of criticism of, like, we haven't really seen enough of Anakin's development, Anakin's turn to the dark side. But I feel like with Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order, spoiler alert, with everything that happens in the Clone Wars, it just makes sense. Anakin was always going to turn to the dark side. Forget about knowing, episode 4, 5, and 6. Just from watching episode 2, watching the Clone Wars, and watching the first hour of episode 3, before Palpatine even reveals he's Sidious, Anakin is going to leave the Jedi. Anakin is going to turn to the dark side because of his character, who he is. And he just needed that kind of tipping point. And obviously Palpatine, as part of the grand plan, he put it in motion for years and years, But he was just always going to turn. It just needed to take that little, the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. And yeah, the whole film for me, I mean, it was a 10 out of 10 for me. It was an 11 out of 10. It was a 12 out of 10. It was the perfect finish. It tied every loose end up.
And I think that's my thing as well. Like, let's move on.
I think that's important for the last film of a saga, is that it needs to tie things up. You can't walk out the cinema and think, what's happened.
So
leaving there was no questions unanswered really.
No, not that they could have answered
No.
in a movie without making this a 6-hour, 7-hour movie. Yes,
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. So in the veins of doing what we always do with these, let's formally give it a rating, a score, and just a quick kind of summary.
yeah.
So
I'm there, baby. 10.
yeah, okay. I would agree with you and say 10. I think I stand by. Put the nitpicking aside, this is a perfect movie. There are always going to be things that people disagree with. There are always going to be things like, I'm going to sit down and go, oh, do you know what? Like, I could go, oh, I didn't like the color of Anakin's starfighter in this one. Like, in that case, I'm not going to give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 9, because if it had been blue instead of yellow, like, I would have been all about that. Do you know what I mean? There are always going to be tiny things that you can nitpick and pick up. But ultimately, like I touched on, I went on that journey with the characters, and I felt every second of emotion that it was designed for me to feel, down to score, writing, and actual kind of the way that everything's been shot and the cinematography of it all. And so, yeah, I'm with you. It's a 10.
Yeah. I mean, there's no better sum up really than that. It just did everything that it needed to do. And like you say, everything. The music was great. The dialogue was better. I mean, that's what I will say. The dialogue was better than it had been in Phantom Menace: Attack of the Clones. We didn't have too much of, a bad character. Um, in episode 1 we had too much of Jar Jar, you could argue. Um, I just think it struck the right balance of action, storyline, dialogue. Just everything worked. And so for me, yeah, it was the perfect 10. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys let us know down in the comments below whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us, kind of what you think we've got right and what you think we've got wrong. Maybe we missed the entire point of this movie and we're watching something completely different to everybody else. So let us know down below. Again, if you've liked the content, please like and subscribe. It massively, massively, massively helps us out, and it helps with all the algorithms and getting our content out to more people, and that is fundamentally what we want to try and do. Feel free to share it out with your friends and all of that kind of stuff. And other than that, thank you for getting to this point in the video, if you're still here and you're still listening, and we will see you guys very, very soon in the next one.
Yeah, take care guys, may the force be with you.